Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
Happy
Shabbat
Sabbath.
Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath.
All right, well, we had a few questions that we've been getting a lot of emails around, and just a couple questions topics that we want to discuss.
Since we started, people have been asking us, emailing us, and we haven't really got to answer any of you guys' questions. We're just starting out. We kind of just try to focus on get your in-house right before you can start, giving anybody else some advice. But today we're ready, and so let's do it. This is our first question.
All right, and it's from Jacqueline from Florida. The question is, why can't women wear pants? Well, first of all, Jacqueline, why would you want to wear pants if you're in Florida? It's like 90 degrees, so why would you want to wear pants anyway? But let's go to the scripture that tells us why it's important for us. We have certain dress codes that we should follow, and that's in Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. And it reads, "A woman shall not wear many man's clothing, nor shall a man put on a woman's clothing, for whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God." So it says it right there that we should dress, skirts, that women apparel, and men should dress in men apparel. But living in today's world, you see men dressing in the skirts and the women, and the women dressing the women dressing in pants, and obviously they're not following the laws and commandments, because if they were, they would dress according to according to the scripture, that we shouldn't put on men's apparel. And I'm noticing a lot of women that do wear a lot of pants, that they're kind of very masculine. You notice that they have this masculine energy about them, because they feel like they're in control, they're dominant, as opposed to a woman that has a skirt on, or a dress, something that's modest. They're more feminine, more like easy to talk to, more easy going. But the ones that wear a lot of pants, they carry that masculine energy, because they're not realizing that they're wearing the pants, and that they start to have that trying to take on like a more of a man qualities, like a masculine, like a leadership, which is not wrong for women to be leaders, but it has to be done in order. So there you go, Jacqueline. That was your answer for the question you asked about why women can't wear pants. Then we
Right. No, I just wanted to piggyback with what you said, and also when you wear pants, when like a woman wears pants, and it's, trust me, this is like subconsciously, you wear pants and you see somebody else wearing the same thing you wearing, which is usually a man, because the man usually wear pants. You're automatically going to somehow in your mind, how it works, you're going to somehow synchronize yourself with that person, right? So, with that being, so what it is that now you have something in common with that person. So if a man is wearing pants, and you're wearing pants, you automatically kind of begin to view yourself as sort of an equal, or some kind of I'm just like them kind of mindset, without even really knowing it, right? Sometimes you're not even aware of it. It just happens, and the man can definitely tell, because he could definitely tell the difference in a woman who wears dresses and pants. When he first initially meets her, like there's a different kind of energy that a woman that wears skirts, predominantly, than a woman that wears pants predominantly. There's definitely a different energy. I'm coming from a man's point of view, so. Right.
And then the next question is also about modest apparel. It seems like a lot of women have.
Where?
Oh, the person. Yeah, sorry. Sarah. We have Sarah from Atlanta. She had a question about about modest apparel.
Hey sis. Shalom, sis.
Yeah, but the question was. Sorry, I can't help it. But yeah, the question that she had was just about what is considered modest apparel, and first we're going to go to 1 Timothy. Chapter 2, verses 9. "Likewise, I want women to adorn themselves with proper clothing, modestly and discreetly, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly garments, but rather by means of good works, as it is proper for women making claims in godliness." We see a lot.
That's Israel.
Right.
Gold.
Right, with the. Nothing
Aries,
wrong with
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
but just too much. It's not.
Too much.
Yeah. When they overdo it,
and it becomes your personality. Like it takes over your personality and your behavior. You know, especially the hair for you women.
Right, I was gonna say with the hair, you know, he's not saying the Most High's not saying you can't have your hair braided, but you don't need the extra jewelry. You don't need the colors, the blonde, the
extra
purple.
attention.
Yeah, just to carry a lot of attention to you. Especially, it's gonna attract the wrong attention. You know, if a man see a woman with blue hair, he's not gonna think you're a righteous woman.
Right.
Yeah,
or
he's
respectable
gonna, right,
like
or
that.
respectable, right. And it's usually when you have the blue hair, it's usually the woman that has the short shorts, the cleavage hanging out.
Got a lot of issues too.
Right.
Going on, some issues
Right,
going on
yeah.
with their, personality issues.
Right.
Relationship issues, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you just want to make sure your clothes is always modest. If you don't know what modest that, if you can put like they used to do in school, put your hands down to your skirt, and if it's above your fingertips, then it's too short. It's not it's not, and it's not appropriate. And also the length too, because you can even have on a dress that's very long. But if it's tight, that's not modest. Mm-hmm. If you could see your whole silhouette, your curves, and as Israel women, we have curves, we have a lot of hips, we have behinds, so if it's skin tight, that's not being modest. So just because it's small, it can be down to your, to your feet, it still has to be, loose fitting, and that's not shown. And why would you want to show that? That off we know why, because we live in Babylonian and sex sells, obviously.
Well, let's talk about that though. Let's talk why would you want it? Because I was always told by a wise man there's two type of women.
Right.
There's two type of women, and you got women that seek attention and you got women that like attention. You know what I mean? So those two different. So when a lot of times when you get women that wear these certain clothing, they're seeking attention.
Right. But it's not but they're
seeking attention. Then you got a difference between a woman that's like. Who doesn't like attention, right? A woman that likes attention, when it comes, it's hey, okay, that. But a woman that seeks attention, she purposely sets her mind set up to it. Let me put this on because I'm gonna get attention from this type of person or this type of woman or whatever.
Right.
So there's a seek attention, like attention. It's alright to like attention, but to seek attention is idol worshiping. Mm-hmm. The attention itself becomes an idol.
Right, and then they get upset.
A false god, right.
If a man grabs them inappropriately, but look what you have on. You have on the shorts, your behind's hanging out. What do you expect? If you're going to throw money at you, what do you expect? If you're dressing like a harlot, if you're dressing like a prostitute.
Whistle at you.
And then you get upset. Well, why? You get upset. Well, put some clothes on. If you had, clothes on, if you were fully dressed in modest apparel, he will come at you with a different approach.
Right, let's keep it real.
Right.
You were seeking attention when you put that on.
Right.
Don't act like because you like it. No. You like it based on society says if you wear this, you'll get attention.
Right.
And that's why you put it on.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then the next question was about head covering. Why is it important to us for Israelite women to have their heads? Oh, I'm sorry, I'll be forgetting names. That was Melissa.
Okay.
From New York, and she asked why is it important to wear head covering. And so we're going to go to 1 Corinthians.
Good question, Marissa. We get this question a lot about the head coverings, because to be honest with you, that's one of the major things with women, because for so long, so-called black women, Israelite women have had issues with their hair and feeling comfortable with their hair.
Right.
And so a lot of times, sometimes they get into, especially in the black conscious community, the Kemet community, they get into, well, I just started wearing my natural hair out. Why would I want to cover it up? Not really understanding the law, the commandment, the rules behind covering your hair up.
Right.
Go ahead, sis.
All right, so we'll turn to 1 Corinthians 11, verses 5. But every woman who has her head uncovered while praying or prophesying disgraces her head, for she is one and the same as the woman whose head is shaved. For if a woman does not cover her head, let her also have her hair cut off. But it is disgraceful for a woman to have her hair cut off or her head shaved. Let her cover her head. So for women that, especially women that is, if they're righteous and they're seeking of the Most High, you always want to have your head covered. And it's also a sign of respect for the Most High, and you're also a sign of respect for your husband, that when you're not in, if you're at work, you always want to keep that your husband rules over you, so you want to have your head covered at all times. And what they're doing nowadays...
It's a reminder for y'all, too.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that you have a covering, that, you're being submissive, and then, you're living your life according to Torah. But nowadays, what do you see? I see what they have done is take it as a style, and now everybody has their hair covered, so you can't even really tell if this woman is righteous or just doing it because they didn't feel like doing their hair today, or they don't have no hair, just being lazy about it. So we just gotta be mindful that when our head is covered, we still have to have our modest apparel on at all times, so we can just set apart. Right.
Matter of fact, I seen a girl with a hair wrap with a pair of poom poom Daisy Dukes on.
Right.
Like, so it confused me.
Right. And that's
I ain't know whether to say shalom or what's popping.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So just to tell y'all sisters out there,
you can't.
You know what I'm saying? You know, if it is some lazy stuff or whatever, choose a different style, man, because Israel got the head covers, got it locked up, got it locked down. So don't neutralize.
Right.
It's kind to me. You know what that reminds me of? And I don't mean, and we don't get around. That reminds me of the men with the beards, right? You got so many men right now wearing beards, like you don't know who's like. It's like
who's actually right.
Like you know they right. You know what I'm saying? They're wearing beards, and you know that's a religious symbol to wear beards. It always represented wisdom for a man. So when you have a bunch of dudes wearing beards who have no wisdom, they beards is, to me, you know, and this might be a little, you know, homophobic. I really don't give it ish, but you know what I'm saying. Some people might say that, but to me, it's like your beard shining. I don't mind a beard looking, you know, you got your fresh Jerry curl juice in it or whatever. But a lot of these cats that are wearing beards, they're not built. They don't have that wisdom in their heart.
Right.
So to me, they just a bunch of KY jelly beard dudes, right? You got mad KY in your beard. Your beard shining because you got KY on it. It's not shining. It's not shining. It's not shining.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Right? You know what I'm saying? You got KY jelly beard. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of reminds me of that dealing with men.
It's true. Yeah, it's like the same thing with the head. Like you see a lot of women. So you know, like sisters, we just gotta be mindful that we have to make sure, you know, our head is covered. We have our, you know, a modest apparel on, because now that Babylon, they didn't have made it a style. You see a lot of celebrities with their hair wraps, but they have barely no clothes on. So we just gotta be mindful of how we look.
And a lot of times they do that also to because Babylon has a history of neutralizing our movements.
Right.
So a lot of times, you know, they'll do that. They'll put things on the media and make it a fashion to neutralize the righteousness of it.
Yeah.
The thing, because it's like anything that happens a lot loses its value.
Yeah.
So they'll do that just to neutralize the value of it. So don't let them use your discernment. Sisters.
And also you guys.
And the men, right? And the men, yeah. And the men, definitely.
A wife or something.
Picking a wife, definitely. Don't just think, because she got a head wrap, she's righteous. Because you got in Israel, this is what I'm learning. You know, I'm learning, like, you know, a woman might have a head wrap, the fringes, and she's still just doing the same kind of behaviors that she was in the thing, especially dealing with men. You know what I mean? She's doing the same kind of movements with men. You know, from Israelite men to Israelite man. And you know, that's the same behavior, just you just switched your uniform.
Form up, right? But just the characteristics.
So sister, who's that? Melissa.
Yeah.
Yes. Head wraps is a law and commandment of the Most High. You should wear it. And just, you know what? And let me just comment on this, dealing with your head wrap thing. A lot of women, see, the slave women used to wear head wraps. And so sometimes they feel like I said, the Kemetic community, like, well, I just started wearing my hair natural. Why
cover it up.
Listen, you gotta understand something. There was a time where sometimes you see women wear their head wrapped down, like obviously you see like the pictures of Mary and Jesus. She wore a garment, a veil that was really long. It came down to almost her knees, along with her garment, her dress or whatever garment she had on. And it wasn't wrapped up like you see a lot of the Africans, or you see it times of slavery. You got to realize, first of all, in Africa, them women work. Them Hamites work. Right? So it's hard to wear a veil or loose down to your thing. You're not a princess. You're a work. You work. See, Israelite women were princesses. You know what I'm saying? They were delicate. So they could wear the veils like they were getting married every day because they were delicate. When they did wrap it up, like sister would have it my sister have it here. When she did wrap it up, it was because they had to do, it was work. They never took it off. Just like, you know, women, they'll go to work and they'll take their cover off. They never took it off. There was times to work, and it was time to, you know, for leisure and just, you know, fellowship. So during the working time, they would wrap it up. They would wrap it up like this, and I've seen this in Africa myself, just so it wouldn't get caught up in whatever they're doing. and during times of slavery, they only might have had one of them, so they had to keep it clean and as clean as possible as they could. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times they said that the slave master told the black women to wrap up their head because he didn't want to see their neck. That's a lie. That's not why they told them. The slaves that you see, the slave women that you see with their head wrapped up were Israelites. That's why they had it. That's why they had it, because their grandmother did it. Their grandmother did it, and it stayed in the culture. That's why they had it wrapped up. Right. Don't believe that ancient mama syrup thing. They had their hair wrapped because they was they scared. They didn't like how their hair looked. That's a lie.
Because they definitely have it's a fad right now with the shaving of the head. Everybody walking around bald headed, not realize it's a sin.
And that's a disgrace.
Right. Our hair is our glory, so why would you want to shave it? Unless you're shaving it to start fresh because we done damaged our hair with all type of chemicals. That's understandable, but people are just doing it because they don't want to deal with their hair, or they feel like it's some type of type of pride. Like, I just cut it off, and they have this mentality, and it's like,
I'm a strong woman.
Yeah, this masculine.
Especially after Black Panther, just to show you how easily your influence and control. Black Panther just set it off.
They sure did. But from there, we'll go into dietary laws. So.
Yep.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, family. We're going to go ahead and go into dietary laws. All right, we have Daria from California. I'm a vegan. Do I have to eat meat on the holy days?
Good question.
All right.
Good question, Daria.
Good question. So we're going to go ahead and go into the scripture. We're going to go into Leviticus chapter 1, verse 1 through 2, and then 4. The Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting. He said, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when anyone among you brings an offering to the Lord, bring as your offering an animal from either the herd or the flock." Verse 4. You are to lay your hand on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted on your behalf to make atonement for you. Okay? Then we're going to go ahead and go into Genesis 9, verse 3.
That first one you just read, as far as him talking about the
vegan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the vegan. Yeah. So just to comment on that a little bit. What's her name? Daria. Just to comment on that a little bit. So you have a lot of vegans and vegetarians. I'll be perfectly honest with you. The only reason why they're even vegans and vegetarians is because they have some sort of knowledge about the GMO meats, the steroid meats, the hormonal meats. I get it. So instead of eating that stuff, you just go vegetarian, vegan, and you feel like you'll be better off.
Right.
I get it, because the steroids and what they do to the meats are horrible. Right. But you have to understand something. When this was brought forth, we raised our own livestock, our own things. We fed our animals sweetgrass, bluegrass, whatever you want to, grains, whatever you want to call it. But we fed them vegetables. We fed them.
Right.
What they ate is what we fed them. Now you're going to a store, you're buying an animal, you don't know who fed it, who butchered it, if they they washed their hands, they smoked cereal while they were doing it. You don't know nothing. So I kind of understand the whole vegan vegetarian movement based on that and that alone. But clearly, we are something called omnivorous animals, where we can eat vegetables and meat based on our circumstance and based on our willingness to survive in the circumstance. Because you have some tribes, like certain tribes of Gad, who their entire tribe lived off the buffalo. So would you say your diet? They were strong warriors. Right. So would you say your vegan diet was better than theirs? No. Right. It's just that they lived off. It's just that the buffalo they ate was naturally fed off grain and grass and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't do the same things that this other meats do. So vegans and vegetarians, I commend you on having the knowledge of what they're doing to the meat. But what you did, how you handled it, wasn't the way that the Most High would have rather you handled it. Right. Instead, rather you become a vegetarian vegan, he would have rather you raised your own sheep, your own lambs, your own cattle, your own chickens. He rather would have created a homestead and learned about animals. Because when you do that, when you do raise your own animals, you learn about animals. A lot of vegans and vegetarians don't know nothing about animals. They don't know nothing about animals. And also, that also turns into sin. I'm gonna show you how vegan and vegetarianism turns into sin in Babylon, because most vegan and vegetarians that I've been around, I've met, whether heathens, Gentiles, whatever, they have a certain level of compassion for animals that they don't have for their brother, their brethren, or their sister, their sister, right? They don't have that same thing. So what winds up happening is you wind up pushing this Babylon winds up pushing the agenda that animals' life are more important than human life.
Right. What's that company? What is that? The one don't kill the animal, Peter or something. They have that don't kill the animals. The big thing in like California.
I'm not sure, but I seen it. I mean, we seen it for us. The example the Most High gave us was Michael Vick. The Most High gave us Michael Vick, who had a whole lot of money, wound up doing a whole lot of time for fighting dogs. But we see all our brothers trade kids and daughters and mothers getting shot, and the people that are doing it aren't doing no time, right? So there's your vegan and your vegetarian mentality a lot. Okay, I'm not saying all you vegan vegetarian thing like that, but a lot of the vegan vegetarians wind up putting animal safety before human safety. Matter of fact, they kind of have a certain discernment against humans or dislike. I'm not saying dislike, but have a certain vibe about humans because they feel like it's the humans that's killing the animals. So they wind up disliking, human beings, and and valuing animals. So you have to be careful with that vegan because it can also become another idol worship where you begin to worship animal worship. Okay.
Peter,
so you got an
organization called but they're very big into
right. So you got to and the thing about this is that this Babylon will push that agenda. They will push that agenda to make you feel like you're right. Okay, but clearly the Most High speaks about eating meat and things like that, especially on the holy days.
Right, the holy days.
As a birth,
it's a sacrifice. So
you gotta understand that sacrificing meat, and this is a lot of things that maybe a vegan and that's why you also hear vegans and vegetarians feel like, oh, they're all peace, they don't want no war, they don't want war because let me tell you something. A lot of them, and I'm not trying to get on you, but a lot of them don't understand what it's like. They don't have the same revere for life, right? Because if they did, they would truly appreciate the animals that give their lives so we can live,
right?
Which is what the Most High really wants you to do when you're slitting a sheep's throat, or you're butchering a chicken, or you're butchering a cattle. The prayers and the blessings that have it is because that animal gave his life for you, which gives you a new respect for what? For life.
Right.
Let's keep it real. You don't have the same respect when you pick a head of cabbage.
Right.
Or when you butcher a sheep. That's two different energies. That's two different feelings that you deal with. When you eat you can eat vegetables all day and never feel like you're hurting anything.
Right.
Right? But when you start animals, and that's why a lot of vegetarians and vegans, and this is what I do respect them about them, they do feel for that. They have compassion for that life, and I respect that. I like that. Where they don't have that same respect and passion for the vegetables.
Right.
But that's also the reason why the Most High says what he says about sacrifices and burnt offerings.
Right.
Because he wants you to understand he wants you to understand what that life did for you.
Right.
Because it's kind of a lesson. It's a lesson to show you what you might have to do for somebody else. Look at parents. Parents have to sometimes sacrifice their life for their children to live. Maybe not like eating the parents, but sacrifice certain things so the nation can live. Right? So certain leaders have to sacrifice certain things so the congregation can live, the preacher or whatever. So you have to sacrifice life just so you can live, survive spiritually and physically.
Right.
So you have to understand, a lot of vegans and vegetarians, a lot of times that's something that's not, when you do that, you're doing it for an animal.
Right.
And the Most High clearly shows in the precept that we have dominion over all the animals. They're not our equals. So don't stop looking at it our equal. As a matter of fact, bring that out where they talk about the animals is not if you have dominion over something, it's not your equal. And the Most High put them here to us to have dominion over it. You should have it already, because I gave you the verse.
Well, can we read? Go
to the
read
next
that.
Question? Go that. Do that, because I want to bring that out.
With Adam, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go into Genesis 1, verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground."
Right, so there you go, right there. And the animals and I are equals. So you shouldn't have a vegan or a vegetarian going, professing. Michael Vick shouldn't be doing 5 years in the feds for fighting dogs,
Right.
but Trayvon Martin and all the other brothers and sisters
Right.
that have suffered a death by the hands of our enemies, get no time. Right, so that's just that's anti-Christ.
Right.
That goes against the scriptures. So just be mindful of vegans and vegetarians. Be careful, because that vegan vegetarianism stuff can also become an idol. It can become, you can become a slave to that doctrine, and you have to be very careful, because there's a whole movement with it. There's groups that perpetuate that type of stuff, so you have to have a lot of discernment in that. I'm not saying being a vegan and vegetarian is wrong, is bad, but I'm just telling you that the Most High does not tell us we cannot eat meat. He also doesn't. He also has certain days we have to do it, sacrifices, and reasons why we have sacrifices. Don't think you know how the Most High thinks, because you don't. There's a reason why He says sacrifice animals, not vegetables, because vegetables don't have the same. It doesn't do the same for us when we sacrifice their life in an animal. Okay. And on that note, I think we probably have some other precepts on that.
Just also, to let you know that, the things on this earth are for you to eat besides the plants. And we're going to go into Genesis 9, verse 3. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything.
There you go. So that answers the question, can you eat meat or shouldn't you eat? That answers your question. Who was that?
Dariah.
All right. So we have another question for the dietary?
So Natalie from South Carolina asked, "Why can't I eat lobster and shrimp?" All right, so.
Well, before you go into that, let me just say something. I used to love lobster. Yes. I still love it. Crab all
legs,
that. Mussels. Oh, forget about it. But I did find out my rib does work. As a nurse, she did see a lot of gout in certain places where there was a lot of seafood being things. So seafood does bring upon a lot of health issues, especially the dirt, not necessarily seafood, but the bottom feeding seafood, the shellfish brings along gout. There's a lot of impurities. Matter of fact, you see the ocean's having a lot of problems. The ocean is stinking it up right now because you're catching too much of that stuff, catching too much of those bottom feeders. The Most High put those selling for high prices, like they're worth more than the stuff that's swimming. They catching the stuff that eats the boo-boo, the poo-poo, right? For being around kids, you use words like poop and all that. Right. So anyway, they can seem like bluefish and tuna with all that stuff that there's swordfish is all this is nothing compared to the crab, because lobster costs you $25 a pound, something crazy, and it eats nothing. Crab they eat nothing but crap.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So they done flipped it on you.
Sure it
You are
is.
what you eat.
Right. They done give you the.
You wonder why you get gout.
Gout.
That's what they always say.
Some women and it can make you. Also, there's a lot of it can make your I don't know if this it can make your cycle stronger, heavier. Eating a lot of those.
Well, you have a lot of iodine, and a lot of that stuff is not good for you. And just listen, the gout alone, a lot of people don't realize.
What color is iodine? Like black? Like kind of like dark?
I think so.
Yeah, it's like black.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
when gout happens, what color is your legs turn?
Your leg doesn't change. It's the
like a blackish turn.
Not necessarily. No, that's just circulation. But but usually people who have gout, they already have diabetes.
That is gout. Gout is poor circulation, right?
No, you can have poor circulation and not have gout. But you can lead to.
Doesn't poor circulation lead to gout?
Not necessarily.
So what is gout?
You're from eating to high iodine. Like you have gout, you'll see people have like gout attack if they eat too much food, have iodine. And it looks kind of gross because like on your if these were my toes, it's like on your knuckles and it builds up. But it looks it just looks nasty. But most people who have it, they have like diabetes and then they have the high blood pressure and everything. everything else that goes along.
But look how our enemies done try to
Right.
make it seem like
Goes
lobster and all that
along.
stuff is the best. It's the best of the best.
Right.
But they give us the crap. And you just, I mean, and I've been
A lot
there.
of pain.
A lot of pain.
Yeah,
and I've been there at the calabashes with a line for the crab legs.
Right,
out
it's
the
not
door.
realizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
And-
before we
and-
came into the truth.
And,
They're not
and
realizing.
just realizing the type of power that kind of stuff
Stuff
has. It's
yeah.
ridiculous, man.
So the Most High put it there for a reason. Don't eat it because He's telling you. So
Right.
you don't want, if you don't want to get gout and all this type
Right.
of diseases that come upon you can't eat this. We have to stick to this law, this dietary law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing.
Out of respect.
Right, out of
Right.
respect.
Respect
And
to the Most High.
Most High.
Right.
And that's also another thing that you gotta understand something about our Father, that He's a man of principle, right? So
Right.
He always deals with the root. He
Right.
always deals with the root. We can't see the fruit that the root will bear, but He does.
Right.
So if He sees the fruit that the root bears, and He's telling you something,
Don't eat
you're
this.
not the one to be like, well, why can't I? Don't do that.
Right.
Just,
But
just
even
have faith.
why, it has
Just
to
have
be,
faith
right.
in Him, and it has it in Him.
Yeah,
What's
why
gonna
you
happen?
can't-
But have faith in Him because He's the root. He knows
Right.
the root. It's just like the wearing pants situation. He knows what that can
Why you
lead
can't,
to.
yeah.
That's the root of the issue.
Right.
All right. So go ahead. You got any more precepts?
Yeah, well, so we're gonna go into a precept to support what we just said. Clean and unclean foods. All right. So specifically talking about the lobster and shrimp, and
The stuff we Israelites love, especially down here, the ones in the south.
All right. So Leviticus chapter 11, verse 9. Of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams, you may eat any that have fins and scales. But all creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean by you.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. It's telling you about the unclean sea creatures that you cannot eat. Anything with scales and fins you can eat. So fish is okay.
Right.
But it has
Just
to
to
be
clear up
certain,
the whole seafood thing. But
Right.
fish
It's
they live on
certain,
top of the water.
Right.
The crabs don't live on the bottom of the ocean.
Right. And be careful of those GMO fish like tilapia.
Right.
Yeah. And usually you can get it. Usually you can figure out which ones of those by the tilapia eats the bottom of the ocean too.
Right. Okay.
It's a trash fish too. So.
Okay.
Trash.
It has to have fins and scales, so if they
Fins
don't
and
have
scales,
it,
right.
don't eat it.
All right, so let's go on to the next questions that we have.
Economics?
All right.
What's the next ones we have?
Economics?
We're going. Okay, somebody has a question on economics.